when he said it's still time to wear your masks, mask up. He said, till everyone has a chance to get their vaccine. That was a really interesting comment to hear from him, now knowing that half the population has gotten the first dose, and now everyone eligible.
Okay, we're a minute past due, and we do have it appears we have a quorum. So I'll call the meeting to order this Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. I think we affirm that there is a quorum. There are 3 of us here out of 5, but it's Geraldine Phyllis and myself, Joe Whittle.
Yes.
Okay. Patrick, would you establish proof of the notice of this meeting?
According to Florida statute.
Okay. Okay, the next item is the approval of the minutes from February 18 organization meeting and the budget adoption meeting minutes and August 17th board directors meeting. Are there any additions or changes to any of those?
No.
Okay, if not, do I hear a motion that we approve those minutes of those 3 items?
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. I have it.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay. Next, we're going to the treasurer's report. Geraldine, would you give us your report?
Sure. At this point in time, we have the financials ready for the end of March. It's still very early into the year, so some of the numbers that you see on the reports of expenses and that kind of thing seem like that we're making, like we've over budgeted for them, but it's because we haven't even spent anything on those things yet. So it's in very good shape at the moment. Our current income is current income is $52,921.18. That will change throughout the year, as we all know. I looked through all of the expenses and cannot see anything that is out of order or over budget or anything at this point in time. So I think we're in good shape. The delinquencies are brilliant at the moment. I don't think we've got anything, right, Patrick? On the delinquencies?
Yeah, nobody in collections right now.
Yeah, so that's really good. And yes, and the investments, at the moment, we've still got quite a few that are coming due in the next year or so, right? But at this point in time, as you all know, the investments are just, there's nothing going on with them. So hopefully things will get better and we'll start investing and making a bit more money with the CDs that we like to keep going. So, but at the moment it's just, it's like 0.04% or something for 3 months, if you can get a 3-month one, right? So that's where we stand with the investments, and we've broken up some of the amounts that were in for the reserves into new accounts so that we don't have anything that's not in the insured situation. So everything's at the moment insured. And that's the status where we are at the moment.
Does anybody have any questions of Geraldine about the financial report? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the manager's report. Patrick?
I can't hear you.
Patrick, I believe you're muted.
Sorry, how's that? Now better?
That's better.
That's better, yeah.
All right, just saying good afternoon, everyone, and I just wanted to give everyone a quick update on some of the work that's been going on around the association property, and I know if anybody's been walking around, they've seen some of the landscaping work that's been done over the last couple of weeks. And Cervantes our landscaping company right now is currently installing some edging along the sidewalks in front of the buildings on Amici Way. And what that's doing is it's preventing that rock. It's holding the rock in place so it doesn't get on the sidewalk. It was a tripping hazard, and I don't think it looked very clean looking, in my opinion. So we're putting in some of that all the way down wherever the rock is. We'll have the edging installed there. So you'll see that going on over the next couple of weeks. Right now they're in front of building 3. They're wrapping up actually in front of building 3 now. And so if anybody hasn't seen it, if you're out and about walking, stop by building 3. A little bit has been done on building 2, but building 3 is almost completed. And like I said, they're going to continue on down the Michi Way. Another thing that Cervantes has been working on is some areas behind buildings 4 and 5. Actually, behind building 4, it's in that parking area there. They've replaced some plants at the entrance of the where the swing gates are. They put some podocarpus in there, which is the existing landscaping. They just filled in what was missing. That really looks nice going in through there now. It's all mulched, and the hedge, I guess, if you want to call it that, it will be a hedge soon, but it looks all consistent now. There's a lot of consistency over there. Cervantes also did work in the planters, or the old fountains, which are planters now. There's one behind building 4, one behind building 3. They needed a little attention, so they added some dirt, switched out some of the plantings, and all that's just about completed back there. The only thing they have left to do is they're going to do a little work around the grill area behind building 4 there, just kind of clean up the area where the shell rock is, and along the fence line right there. So next projects that we're going to be working on in terms of landscaping is the palm trees that are located on the terrace of building 6. Those are Christmas palms. They're triple palms, and there's 5 pots up there, and the trees have just overgrown. They're overgrown. They've outgrown the pot that they're in. They're literally probably 6 inches to 12 inches above the top of the pot. So they're becoming a safety issue. So we're going to take those plants down. Unfortunately, they're going to have to be cut. We can't save them. There's a lot of irrigation in there, and electrical lines that are all in with the roof all now. So that's going to be all removed and replanted, and we're going to end up putting Robolini palms in those plants instead of the Christmas palms. Robolini palms are the palms that are in the planters out where the fountain is, out by the office here. So they're a slow-growing palm. They're decorative, and once we replace it with that particular species, we're going to be good for a long, long time. Those trees are not going to grow at that rate at which the Christmas palms are currently growing at. So you're going to see that work going on over the next probably week or two as they start removing a lot of that debris from those pots up on that terrace. So another area that they worked on was the corner of building 5. This is Cervantes. There was some Mexican petunia there that was dying out, struggling. Looked horrible as you're coming around that turn and you're turning in towards building 5 there on Sardinia. That corner was just it needed a lot of work. So we ended up extending the cocoa plums, the existing shrubs that are there, the cocoa plums. We brought that around up to the planter and wrapped it around and resodded that area. So it's much cleaner in there now. Hides a lot of that other material that's behind it. And Juan Cervantes, he installed a little bit larger cocoa plums just so we can get that instant height there and just kind of shield that area. And just so it's not such an eyesore anymore. So, but that's about all the landscaping projects that we have going on right now or that we've completed. And as I think everybody's aware, the royal palm trees were trimmed back in March, on March 15th actually. And I did get a couple of calls regarding the pruning. Seemed to be a little heavy this time. And in some cases, in some areas it was. And so I'm having that discussion with Johnson's. And I'm actually looking at a couple other tree companies too that yeah, I just want to check rates and that type of thing too. So, but the next time around, that won't happen. So we're not going to have them scalped as much and cut back as much as they were this time. So next item on my list is this is going to be under maintenance. At Southern Chute on site last week, they did an inspection of all the trash chute components, and that would be the trash chute that's actually in the building, the doors that are in the trash chutes on each floor, the components that are down in the actual trash room, that's where the trash discharges on the street level. And so they were able to fix a couple of items that they came across, a couple items they need to order some parts, and then they're going to return and finish up what they weren't able to fix last week. So trash chutes are, if anybody has any issues with the trash chutes, with latches not working properly or anything like that, just give me a call. Chances are I got picked up in this. That should be fixed here within the next, I'd say, 10 days to 2 weeks. Next item is plumbing. We had a plumbing repaired this week, or not this week, it was last week. Indigo Plumbing made a repair over in Building 6, and this is something I've touched on a few times in the past at meetings. We have a sewer condition in CP4 in some areas that goes back to developer when they installed the sewer lines down in the retail area. Some of the collection areas are separate fittings, and those fittings they're not pitched properly. Some of them are either level or they're back pitched a little bit, so they're holding a little bit of flow from mainly the bathroom areas in Building 6. So what happens is some residents at different times throughout the day, they'll hear some gurgling in their toilet or their sink or something like that. In some cases, we've had a little bit of back water come up, and so Indigo Plumbing did a pretty thorough investigation of the entire CP4 system, and specifically Building 6, and we located the issue that was giving us a problem in the I think it's Unit 20. I think it's the 09 stack, and so they removed the fitting, put a new fitting in there to pitch properly, made some adjustments on the laterals that are coming over to this collection point to make sure that the proper pitch is achieved, and everything seems to be working very well over there. So we did find another problem in the Apple store for another unit. That's going to be another repair that's going to get scheduled, but we have one more we need to check before we make that repair in the Apple store. So we have one in Building 7 that's affecting, I don't know if anybody knows Roy at Shepherd, but it's that stack right there. She's had some issues last year with it, and so Indigo Plumbing is going to do an investigation in the retail stores for that particular stack, locate that fitting, make the repair, and then we'll have that one behind us, and then we'll drop back and get the Apple store. So biggest challenge in this whole thing is getting access to the retail stores. It's not easy. You can't get in there anytime you want. You have to schedule it out. Typically, it's a week in advance, and so it's a little slow process getting there. But once we get there, then we have a pretty good plan, and everything flows pretty efficiently. So. Safe and Sound was also on site over the last couple of weeks. They replaced all the push bars on all the lobby entrance doors. So all the push bars have been replaced. So we've had the handles on the outside have been replaced. The push bars have been replaced, and then we have the push plates that Safe and Sound installed on the door. And basically, the push plates are just installed in a high traffic or high touch area just to prevent the paint from deteriorating. So. The Safe and Sound did a pretty good job on that. The push bars look great. Looks like it belongs on the door now. So it's a lot better than the previous push bars that had the paint that was starting to peel off and just break down just from being a high touch surface. That's all it is. It's just all of our oils on our hands getting in there, breaking the paint down, and so we won't have that issue with the new push bars. Naples Fire was on site as well this week. They replaced the power supply for the fire panel in Building 1. We had the same issue over in Building 4. These power supplies are 15 years old now, so we're starting to experience failures on some of these power systems. So most of the time when residents hear the alarm panel, either in the garage or in the lobby, they hear it beeping, chirping. Typically that's what that is. That's a power supply that needs to be replaced. So each building has a NAC panel, it's called, and basically what that is, it's just a sub panel for a specific zone in the building. So each zone controls specific safety equipment, and each panel is powered by one of these power supplies. So we can expect to be replacing these over probably, I would imagine, the next year or two. So I think we've already replaced probably about 7 or 8 of them. And I would imagine that we have, I would say we probably have about 25 to 30 of these panels located throughout the building. So it's just something that we're going to be, these are reserve items. It's not a big dollar expense, but it's kind of an aggravation, I guess, for residents, because sometimes it takes a few days for the parts to come in for those particular panels. And so you'll hear the panel beeping in the meantime. So, but that's what's going on there. Comcast Business. So we have 2 Comcast accounts. We have the Comcast bulk cable, which the owners have the cable and the internet package, and then we also have the Comcast Business. And Comcast Business is our phone system throughout the property. So each building has a set of phone lines. We have phone lines for fire system, for elevators, and so on. So over the years, some of these phone lines have been converted over to some other type of phone system. So one of the most common ones, or was the most common one for the last, I would say, maybe 5 to 10 years, has been cellular. A lot of cellular services have introduced these programs where they'll monitor your fire system, for an example, or they'll direct all the emergency phone calls from the elevators, for an example, that'll go to a call center. So a lot of associations did choose to do that because it is a substantial savings in terms of what a landline costs. But the problem with those services are it's a third party, and so when you're calling, if you get stuck in the elevator, for an example, you're not calling 911 and you're not calling Schindler. You're calling this other company, who in turn has to call either the elevator company and has to make that decision whether or not to call the elevator company or the fire department. So Schindler's protocol is much different. They monitor it, so all the calls go directly to a call station that's controlled by Schindler, and that call center actually dispatches the technician if need be, or 911. And typically it's going to be 911 if there's an entrapment. By the time the elevator technician gets on site, 911 can be here and gone. So we were able to eliminate 2 sets of phone lines for each building on the fire system, and that was converted over to a cellular system, which is actually controlled by Naples Fire. So Naples Fire has their own service, way cheaper than landline, way better. It's one-stop shopping. The call goes right to Naples Fire, and then Naples Fire dispatches whoever they need, whether it's fire department, whether it's whoever it might be. So it brings me over to the telephone system. So we have a phone line for each telephone system. We were able to remove all these additional lines, got it down to actually pretty much for the most part 2 phone lines per building, and those are basically for the elevators. So those phone lines originally were pretty expensive. Comcast had a reduction there for a little while. They dropped it down to, it was, I want to say it was about $80 with tax and everything included per line. And that was down from like $123. Well, they had another increase, and the increase went back up to $123 now. So we're paying a lot of money for these phone lines that are just, it's a hard pill for me to swallow to stay with Comcast, because we're just getting ripped off, because there's so many alternatives out there, whether you want to go to like a cellular system or a VoIP system. And the VoIP system is the system that we put the front doors on. So all the directory boxes are on that VoIP system. We've had pretty good success with that. We haven't had any issues. And so we've made that change over on our elevator phone system now. So that's on a VoIP system, much cheaper. It's $40 a month versus, $100 and some dollars a month. And so that's all been changed. So we're redoing the contract with Comcast Business right now. The only thing on Comcast Business we're going to have is the office phones and our IP lines, our static IP lines that we have for our network, where all the cameras and the access control systems, that's the highway that all the information travels on. So we need that. And so that's going to be our only thing. And we have, I think, 3 IPs and and the phones that are currently in the office. So we're going to do away with that. And overall, I mean, since we're mid-budget cycle, we're not going to see the savings this year. We're going to see a savings, but not the full amount. The full savings on an annual basis is going to be around $18,000. So removing those lines. And so that's something that's in the process. And like I said, the phone lines have already been converted. And right now we're just removing those lines now with Comcast. So that'll be probably reflected. If it's not on the next invoice that we get from Comcast Business, it'll be on the next one. On the, let's see, that's going to be April, probably May or June, probably we'll see that. So, so that's the Comcast phone system. The last thing I have here would be insurance renewal. So we have the association's insurance renewal is coming up in June. It's June 20th. We met with Joe Whittle and Geraldine French. We met with Doug Schiff. He's our insurance agent from IRMS yesterday, as a matter of fact. And it's just a preliminary meeting and just getting a little bit more information. He's already been provided like information such as the budget, the financials, the appraisal, those types of documents he already has. And then he just comes in and just gets some other information to see if there's been any updates and any improvements over the year, maybe a capital improvement that needs to be on the insurance schedule, those types of things. And just kind of gives us a little bit of an idea of what we might be looking at come June in terms of any kind of insurance prices. So that's coming up in the renewal on June 20th, and IRMS will have the insurance estimate available about 3 weeks prior to that date.
He gets carried away.
And,
Excuse me, some of you need to mute your mic. We hear your conversation. Some of you people are on. Okay, go ahead, Pat.
Okay. And then the last couple things I have are just some reminders for residents, just general reminders, and these are types of reminders that we post in the elevator from time to time. And hold on just give me 1 second. I want to. Okay. So the reminders are, the first reminder is shopping carts, shopping and luggage carts. We're getting a lot of reports that shopping carts are being removed from the garage. A resident comes in, is loading up their groceries, their packages, whatnot. They take it to their unit, and 1, they're either leaving it in the unit, 2, they either leave it in the hallway, or 3, they'll push it maybe down by the elevator, and if they're lucky, they'll get it onto the elevator, and it's going to go for a ride every time that somebody calls the elevator. And some residents might take it out and put it back, and and I wish people would put these back, and have that kind of attitude. And some people just leave it there, but the baskets and the luggage carts, they really need to be returned timely. I mean, people rely on these shopping carts when they come in from the grocery store, or they come in from shopping, or they're coming down from up north and they have items that they need to take up to their units. And when the shopping carts aren't available, it's aggravating. And I can understand that. I would be really aggravated. And the thing that really gets that I guess adds salt to the wound is that the shopping cart's not even being used at the time when you need it, probably. It's probably stuck in an elevator, stuck in somebody's unit, or up in a hallway somewhere. And if somebody was too lazy or didn't want to bring it back or something, but please return the shopping carts back to the garage in a timely manner. And so other residents, because we have a lot of people here, and people rely on certain amenities. Some people don't ever use the amenities, and some people, rely on them. And shopping carts are one of those items, I think, that I think everybody can agree. The majority of the residents in the association rely heavily on those carts. I mean, without them, it would be very difficult getting back and forth to your units with your items. So please return the carts in a timely manner. Storage units, specifically the cages that are on the floors. So those storage cages are obviously assigned to a unit, and when unit owners have their storage areas filled up, and you really might not be able to can't get any more room in there, items do not go outside the cage in the walkway. So that's what some people are doing. They're putting overflow items or items they don't want or whatever it might be, and they're putting it outside the cage and making it somebody else's problem and making another issue where other residents that need to access their storage cage can't get to it. So because these items are in the way, so they're restricting access. And the other thing, it's a safety violation with the fire department. I mean, the fire department doesn't allow us to keep things like that in those storage units, whether it's an electrical room or a storage room of that nature. In the storage room case, you have the cages, so items are allowed to be in there, but not on the outside of the cage. So that's another thing that we've been experiencing a little bit lately, especially in building 3. There's been some items that have been left out, and residents need to have those items removed. The association does not accept furniture. Waste management will not pick up that furniture on a regular basis, like on the regular pickups. That's something that you would have to make an arrangement with. Residents would have to make an arrangement with either St. Matthew's House, or you can call Waste Management to see if they would come by and make a special pickup for that. You'd be responsible for any kind of expense that might be involved with that, but we don't accept any kind of furniture, because once we get it, we're stuck with it, and now we have to pay to get rid of it in most cases. So we don't accept any furniture, no furniture in the trash rooms or up on the floors or anything like that. So I just wanted to let everyone know that especially those storage rooms with the cages in it, really need to be accessible for other residents. So next thing is one of our favorite topics to talk about is pets. A reminder for pet owners to do their due diligence and do the right thing and clean up after your pet. There's no excuse not to clean up after pets at this point. I mean, we've got dog stations all around the property. I mean, we've got several of them. There's a walkway right up to it. There's always bags in there. We keep them loaded up with bags, so bags are never an issue. The product is available. Please use it. I know the stations are located in the back of the buildings. My personal opinion, I think that's the ideal place to take your dog out to relieve him or herself. I think there's a lot of area out there that they can use. It's close by the stations. You don't have to worry about, I forgot my bag or this or that. So just please be aware of that, and because people are watching, and plus there's cameras around too, and so we can sometimes identify that. The other thing I'd like to mention too is for pet owners is to, listen, we all understand that dogs have accidents. That's not a surprise to anybody, but when that does happen, if it happens in the hallway, or if it happens in a common area, if it happens in the elevator, specifically too, because that seems to be a common area, but the elevator, a stairwell, wherever it might be, clean it up. We've been discussing doing like doggy DNA and things that might help curb that. And so those are just things that we're discussing. And the doggy DNA, that program is really not that expensive. And it seems to be, from what I've been reading about other associations that have been using it, that have it actually in place, and it seems to have cured the problem. So it's something that, management and the board has discussed, and we're looking at, and we're just looking at options to help I guess, get a grip on this whole situation with dog owners, pet owners cleaning up after their pets. So, and then the last thing I have is service providers. HVAC and specifically HVAC and moving companies. We really need those companies to stop in the office prior to performing any work on property. We need the AC companies to check in with the office so we can get them signed in. We know where they're going, and we can get them set up with the key, let them know what the rules and regulations are in terms of accessing the roof and that type of thing. And the same thing with moving. Movers are required to come into the office at this point, because what happens is a lot of times the company shows up, they go directly to the unit owner, and they start, and they don't really know what our rules and regulations are in terms of having the air conditioning on in the lobby, or holding the doors open, or damage, or things of that nature. So those are things. That's why I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's one of the reasons why we kind of changed that section in the rules and regulations. And I think, listen, I've been to other associations. They have move in, move out deposits. When it comes in terms, it's just a deposit. It's like a security deposit. It's no different. If there's damage, then you don't get the whole thing back. And if there's a lot of damage, then if it goes above and beyond that, then that's something that the moving company or ultimately the owner of the unit or the resident that's moving out is going to be held responsible for. So, but that's just another item that we have in place where we can, just checks and balances. That's all it is. It's just so we know who's on property, where they're going, and that everybody's on the same page in terms of, what the procedures are, when people are moving in or moving out. And it's, a lot of residents, I don't know if, a lot of residents might not be aware of how the move really goes. So, it's just something that we need to do, because we do have movers that sometimes they're a little difficult to deal with, at times. So, and I think we can kind of head a lot of that off if we just have a little 5-minute meeting before they start. So, and that concludes my manager's report.
Okay,
Yes.
This is Annette. I wanted to just add something about like move in and move outs. Sometimes I see people that are clearly just sort of moving themselves or have some friends helping, they pull up a truck and, or even a pickup truck, and they're loading and unloading. So I think that maybe some residents or tenants may not be aware of, any type of move in and move out policies, and they're not actually using a, bona fide moving company per se.
Right. And what we're going to do in that situation, and that is all the leasing documents are going to be revised once all this, we get the current rules and regulations approved by the board. Then those documents, they get revised, and that'll have that language on there. And that's just something that we're going to have to, at the time that when the lease goes out, that's something that we do go over in orientation. We try to do the orientation prior to them moving in. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times there's schedule conflicts, that type of thing. But that's something that we can definitely work on that. As far as educating some of the tenants, if they're going to move a piece of furniture, from they just went to Rooms to Go, or they went somewhere and they picked up a piece of furniture, that's one thing. But if they're moving out, they're going to have to go through the same type of procedure that any other moving company is going to have to go out if they're going to do it themselves and try to save a few dollars. That's most definitely when a lot of the accidents are going to happen. So, but good point in that.
Okay,
Patrick,
thanks.
there are a couple of items that have been ongoing problems that for a long time and very difficult to deal with. One is the bat problem. Would you explain what's going on with the bats?
Okay, the bat situation is near under control. Right now, there's a blackout date until it went into effect on April 15th through August 15th. And basically what it is that's a time period where bats are breeding, and they're protected during that period of time. So you can't do any bat mitigation. So we have 3 small, and I mean small literally, This is nothing like it was before. Before there was thousands, now we're down to probably under 100. In 3 areas, there's in building 7. So we're in areas right now. I don't feel comfortable with the bat mitigation company performing the work. This is something that I feel that falls under the responsibility of our roofing company, Kelly Roofing. So I had Kelly Roofing out, and so they're going to be able to take care of it. This is something that they come across too when they're working on roofs. And it's common for tile roofs to have bats. It's not something that is uncommon. So once we get into August, these areas that are problematic that we needed to, I mean, literally these are very, very, very small spaces, and there's literally only a handful of bats getting into this area in building 7. So those are the areas that they're going to work on, and then they're going to seal those areas up permanently once we get to August 15th. So there's not much that we're going to be able to do right now. I've been monitoring it, and I have not seen any major evidence of bat droppings. There are a little bit in some areas, but it's nothing. I mean, it's night and day compared to what it was, say, 4 to 6 weeks ago. So.
Well, another issue that's always bothered me are the elevators. And I've learned a lot about elevators in the last couple of years. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we had the elevator in building 4 and the elevator in building 2 that were out for an extensive period of time. And it seemed like that Schindler elevator, they were sending people from West Palm or Tampa down here, and they'd come down, work 4 or 5 hours, and go back, and they'd charge us time and a half. So I instructed Patrick not to pay them. So we held up their payment for, over a year, and told that they were supposed to give us reasonable service, which they were not given, and we were not going to pay them until we were sure that we were going to get some service. So as a result of Patrick negotiating with them and taking a hard line, we now have a better service, I think. And they did cut us some slack. I don't think what did they do? They changed the hours.
That's something that we're working on with them right now, Joe. We had several invoices during that period of time that Joe's talking about. And essentially it went back to building 4, actually, when we had that elevator down for a while. And there was, I don't recall the exact number of invoices, but there were several invoices where we were, I felt the charges were just, they were just astronomical. It was crazy. So, and they cut all those invoices in half. We saved probably, I don't recall the exact figures, but it was in the ballpark of about $5,000 or $6,000 from those invoices. The service contract is something that we're negotiating. We're trying to get this, when an elevator breaks down, if it breaks down at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, for an example, and say if it's in any building with one elevator, so the elevator is completely out. Building 3 is a little bit different because you've got the 2 elevators over there. You can get by with the next day's service in that situation. But some of these other buildings where it's the only access, and we may need, and maybe we have a full house there, maybe all the units are occupied or the majority of them are. So we're going to need to get a technician out there as soon as possible. So even though the call went in at 2 o'clock today, and maybe they're in the area and they're over here at 3 o'clock, we're getting charged overtime for that. So that's something that I'm trying to get changed. And they're willing to change it, but they want to extend the terms of the contract, and I'm just not gonna do it. They're either gonna extend those hours. They're trying to recoup overtime charges, is what they're doing by extending the contract. So, so they're either gonna extend it at no charge, or we're gonna end up. I see us going to another company at some point. So I don't know if we're gonna. I don't have a lot of confidence we're gonna make it through this 10-year contract. So
even though we have a contract, they have a common law duty, and I think Mark will agree to perform. And in my view, they don't perform if they send workers down here 3 or 4 hours a day from Tampa and charge us an arm and a leg. That's not consider a proper consideration. But I will say that the elevators, people don't realize how many times elevators go up and down each day. And everybody I talk to that lives in a high rise complained about elevators going out. They seem like there's always a problem. But I did want to let you know, let the people listen know that has been a priority with the board and with Patrick to try to get the best service we can on the elevators. You know, it's especially bad in buildings, well, anybody on the first floor that's handicapped or physically handicapped that has a problem in mobility. I mean, they're stuck. Those on building, on the upper floor, sometimes they can go across the walkway to another building, but in buildings 1 and 5 and anybody on the first floor and buildings 2, 3, and 4 really have a problem. Unfortunately, we only have one elevator in each of the buildings, except for building 3, and they stole one from building 7, I guess. But anyway, another thing I want to mention, when Patrick mentioned Comcast, recently I thought, well, I'll just do a speed test on my internet and see if I'm getting the service that we're supposed to get. Well, I couldn't get over 100 on the speed test. Well, it took me about 4 or 5 days to get it straightened out. I don't know if that's called a wrong number or what. I guess somebody in India that told me I didn't have my contract on permitted 100 megs or whatever it is. And finally I got the right number and they said, oh, your account, that's wrong. We'll change it. So in 5 minutes I had 400 instead of 100. And there might be others out there besides me that are not getting this fast internet. So I would suggest that you check, do a speed test. And if you're not getting it contact them and get it straightened out. But anyway, we contracted for 400 or their best extreme. So if you're not getting it, be sure and get it. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have any questions? Victor, Victor, you got on? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Victor,
I'm here.
okay, Victor's on. Okay.
Pam is here too. I see Pam's name is listed.
Pam?
We're getting to her.
I am, but I don't know. I don't know how to change it. So I'm here.
Okay. All right. In that regard, as many of you know, Dave Murtaugh, who was the representative for CP3, he recently sold his condo and moved north. I think right now he's back home in Indiana, but he told me he'd probably settle in Sarasota where he has family. But the board got suggestions from some of the residents in buildings 4 and 5, and Pam Wetkemper was recommended by someone, and she was interviewed, and we talked to her, and I'm going to recommend that we appoint her. But before we do, Pam, would you tell some of the people about your background? And I believe she's a Mary Kay distributor. That's one thing. I believe she's been on boards before.
Yes. I'm a mother of 5 children, 14 grandkids, and I've been in Mary Kay for 42 years. I don't actively work it, but I still have been in so long. You're kind of still there. But we have rental property on Hickory Boulevard, Bonita Beach, and I managed the HOA that our small group had until I retired from that in December of this last year. So I manage properties and ran out of places to stay. So that's why I moved to Coconut Point, and I love it there. So all good to me.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that the board appoint Pam as the board member to replace Dave Murtaugh in CP3. Would someone second that motion?
I second
Okay, Victor seconded and Phyllis seconded. All in favor say aye.
it.
Aye.
Well, Pam, you can share the misery. So, no, it's really, this is a great place to live. We always have problems, but I wouldn't leave here for anything unless I had to, unless I was chased out. But anyway, but welcome aboard. Is any other old business, Patrick, or any of the board members? Okay. Well, if not, we'll go to new business. And that is the rules and regulations. You know, ever since I've been on the board, any of the boards, I've noticed how discombobulated, if that's a good word, the rules and regulations have been. They just keep adding on and taking off, and it was confusing. And Patrick has taken upon himself in the last year to try to codify them and to get them some order. And he had some help from Carol Manteau and others that agreed to look at them. And they've come up with a draft that was kind of consensus, and it was shipped. They were shipped out to every resident 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now, rules need to be changed occasionally because of things you discover or problems you have, like people not returning carts and other things. And there have been recently some good suggestions. And some problems. One is about the hours of the clubhouse. The fact that everybody's got to leave at 11 o'clock. Unfortunately, they don't leave at 11 o'clock. Security leaves at 11. And so that's a very good suggestion. There's also been a suggestion about dogs. A couple of people said that they thought we ought to put a weight limit or size limit on dogs permitted by owners. And that's something that dog problems, whether it be a vicious dog or a dog that is not bathroom trained. Those are things that we need to address. And that's one of the reasons that we decided to informally, some of the board members talked to Patrick about the DNA to see if we can identify the people who do not pick up after dogs. That I'm told that, I was hoping that amendments to the draft could be done today, but after reflecting and talking to Patrick, they cannot be. If they did, we'd have to amend them and send it all the rules and regulations out again and have another meeting. So with that being said, if any of you would like to address before we vote, if you'd like to address some of those changes, we do it now, and I would urge you after today, if we approve the rules, that anytime you have a suggestion, address it to your board member so that we can really address it the next time we come out with the rules. So with that being said, does anybody want to address any of the rules?
Yes, Joe.
Suzanne?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Concerning the clubhouse, because the rules and regulations that we have says our quiet hours are from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. And like you said, just because if they're there till 11, they don't necessarily leave at 11. My concern is we had a lot of noise not too long ago where people stayed way past 11, even though security was there to tell them to leave, but they still had to clean up. And during the daytime, I have found the clubhouse door not fully locked, that it was still partially open. And if that happens at night after security's gone, anybody could walk in because we have a short wall over by the barbecue area where people, kids or whatever could climb over. They could get into the clubhouse. It could all become a big security issue for us, aside from the noise problem. Because I know places I've lived before, police always said 11 o'clock is the cutoff time for noise. And if we have people here after security's gone, that's not a good thing for us.
Okay. Anybody else want to
Yes, I have,
address that, Carol?
are you proposing a certain hour that the clubhouse should close?
Me?
Anyone? Is anyone saying that the clubhouse should close earlier than the 11 o'clock hour?
Can we make it 10 or 10:30 and security is here to make sure everything's finalized and shut down, or can security stay a little later? So it's one or the other, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the hour. And I'm also wondering about times when special events are on that 80-inch television that people want to see.
Yeah.
You know, sporting events and like Academy Awards and things like that. Well, they run well past the hour. What do we do? Say, sorry, go home? I'm not sure if we thought that all the way through, you know, how that would work. Anybody? I mean, would we, if we wanted to use the clubhouse, let's say, to just watch a Super Bowl, would we then have to give a deposit to keep that clubhouse open and then make sure that the responsible party cleans up, locks up, so that the deposit can either be returned or just kept on file? I mean, what do we do then? Because, you know, a lot.
You're talking about having a party or a social.
No, just a gathering. Just a gathering. You know, Joe, we bought that big television, you know, for events such as major sporting events, or like people might want to go watch the Academy Awards together in there, or the Oscars, you know, things like that. And they don't end in a timely manner. We all know that. So how do we handle that?
Well, I think that's something all of us should think about. One thing Patrick told me he's going to do. Pat, you want to address what you're going to address with security?
Yeah, and actually, Suzanne just kind of alluded to it, actually. I agree with her on that, that I think that this is the way I see it. So if you keep the clubhouse open until 11, I mean, we could put a protocol in place at 10:30, security goes in, or whatever hour that we end up closing the clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like 30 minutes prior, maybe security goes in there and just says, hey, listen, just a little friendly reminder, you know, it's 10:30 for an example, and you know, it's time to start cleaning up and, you know, winding down on that type of thing. And the other thing that it kind of ties into is parking. So if security's leaving at 11 o'clock, for an example, I think we need to extend, this is my point, I think we need to extend the hours, not much, maybe 30 minutes a night, maybe an hour, whatever that is, I don't know. But what I'm getting at is that, say, for an example, at 11 o'clock, he's doing his last walk on Amici there on checking for permits, and he comes across a car that either doesn't have a permit, but maybe he's a chronic violator. And so he's going to tow the car now at this point. So
that'll be the day.
Right now, he's leaving at 11. You can't call the tow truck at, you know, 10 minutes to 11 and say, hey, there's a car parked out here. And then, you know, in 5 minutes, the guy comes down or the person comes down and moves the car, you know. So that to me is not working. I think that call needs to be made at 11. And so somebody has to stick around. He's going to have to stick around until the tow truck arrives. So now, with that said, we switched tow companies about a month ago. The previous tow company was horrible. Anytime they called, they're not available, they're 3 hours out, this and that. And we can't tow cars 3 hours from now, you know, in the middle of the night when nobody's around to verify that that car has been moved or whatever, you know, and so the new company is not like that. They're pretty responsive, and actually they're a little eager to pull cars. So they'll stop by and periodically and just check in with us. Hey, how's things going? You guys having any issues with that? So that kind of brings up that little bit of a little hiccup in the whole process where, you know, we have the clubhouse. I mean, we could tie the two into the one now if we extend it maybe 30 minutes or whatever, you know, and or if we back it up. I mean, we're always going to be in that position with the parking. So regardless of what you do with the clubhouse hours, we're always going to be in that situation with the parking from Monday through Thursday. So Friday and Sunday. So Friday and Saturday, when security's here until midnight, we don't have that issue. So if somebody is in violation, they can call a tow truck and, you know, and wait for them to come out, you know, and but it's hard to do during the week.
Could it be that there's exceptions to the rule and an application has to be filed and then we have extra security to later, like a special event, like Carolyn was mentioning, that it could be an exception to the general rules and somebody fills the application, gives a deposit, and security is addressed at that time too?
I think that's easy.
Phyllis, that makes a lot of sense to me because these events are not on a daily basis.
Right, exactly.
They're occasional.
Exactly.
But if we make a blanket rule and we need to adhere to the rule, then it puts us in a funny spot. So I think there are exceptions to everything.
That would be addressed through an application, approval of the application, etc.
Exactly. That's what I was talking about. If somebody wanted to just say, okay, well, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. If anybody wants to join me, fine. I've already cleared it with the office, and they know that I'm responsible.
And security would be addressed as security is needed at certain hours, beyond their hours right now.
But not all the time. And
on this occasion
was informed because they knew something was coming
Right.
up.
Exactly.
Then it could be addressed.
Right.
So who would pay for the extra security then?
Well, we would have to. I'm not on the board, Suzanne. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just asking. So would it come out of the security deposit for that special event that may end up at 1 or 2 in the morning? Because, or is the whole association going to pay for those extra hours for security?
I think we're talking about something that might occur maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
Not a monthly thing.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
It's monthly.
And I don't think anybody's staying up until
No, I
2.
think, no, special
I was
occasion.
going to say, I'm sure that most of those special events even would still be done by midnight.
Yes,
Yes, absolutely.
if
Yeah,
not sooner.
yeah, that would be the limit, yeah.
Sooner than midnight, but after the bewitching hour.
The next question is though, that if we make it 11 or 10, what we decide on, if we do make it 11, security would have to be there a half an hour, I think, after.
Yes.
If we extend the hours, there'd have to be some form of security.
Yeah.
Address that.
Yeah, they're the ones that lock up.
Well, all those are challenging issues, and I think people should think about them and talk to Patrick, talk to the board, and try to come up with something that's fair. Of course, security, when we increase security, that's potential increase of dues. And I think the question is whether the organizer of the event, with their deposit, pays the security guy to be there extra hours. You know, they might moonlight that. I don't know, but we have a problem of cost versus enjoyment. And so I think all 3 of you that have addressed this, maybe 4, have legitimate questions. And then you have the question, what constitutes a special event? Is it a wedding anniversary dinner for somebody for their 10th anniversary or what? But those are items that really need to be thought through, and please talk to to your board member and to Patrick with suggestions on how to be fair to everybody. So anyway.
Maybe the security could come in an hour later. I mean, I think like on the weekends, doesn't he start at like noon, which I'm not really sure why. I think we've brought this up before. I don't know why we need security at noon on Saturday or Sunday for that matter. I mean, I think that maybe if there was something going on, that it could just be that they come in an hour later and stay an additional hour versus an extra cost.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's the security guard has two functions. One is to issue temporary parking permits for the street, and the other one is for security. That is to prevent unauthorized people from getting into the building, or if there's a disturbance, to take care of it by calling the sheriff. And that I might remind everybody, if there's something violent going on, regardless, the person to call is the sheriff. And so what we're talking about here now is really securing the premises at night. And none of us want to leave in the doors propped open so somebody's running up down the hall that doesn't belong here, and which we have had over in Building 3 a couple of years ago. I saw somebody sleeping on a couch over there that wasn't supposed to be there. It was the wrong building. You got to hold somebody's fob. So, you know, we have problems like that come up all the time. And so.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Patrick, when we have events, they're either a private event or it's something like the Super Bowl, and that's probably not private. That is just an event that's put on by the association. At the time that a private event is scheduled, is it made clear both on the paperwork and also to the people that at what time that they're supposed to be out of there, and that if they're not out of there, they will be responsible for the additional security for as long as they are there?
Yep. That would make them think twice, right?
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to do. We're
Yeah.
trying to get them to go home.
And I think a lot of people, I would think, if you were having a private party, that if it was going to cost you another $200 more, right, because you have to pay for security or whatever, they would probably just reduce their hours, right?
Well, I think they would, and
Yeah.
also if it's a residence event, we would certainly know that ahead of time, and if we would know when these events are going to end, so that we could schedule security for that purpose at that time.
Right.
I think maybe we can take care of this internally with just the application and making some changes to that application as to what we're going to require. On the security of the cars, would our security be authorized to install boots on cars or not, Patrick? No?
It's not authorized.
No, I don't think security is authorized to do that. I'd have to check with Ramco and see what the regulations are on that, but I don't think they're allowed to.
Okay, all right. It's just simpler than having cars towed, because you wouldn't have to boot more than one of them, and you wouldn't have any problem anymore. But
yeah,
that was just a suggestion.
Victor, once I rented the clubhouse for a private event, and right there in the documents I signed, it told me exactly what I was responsible for, what would happen if there was damage, and what time I had to be out of that building. So it was all spelled out, and I signed my name to it.
So if we would just add a statement for the cost of the additional security, if you're not out by then, it seems like that might solve the problem.
But there aren't any problems. That's the whole point of this.
6 years.
There are no major issues. Maybe one in 6 years that I've been here.
All right. Well, I mean, we live over the pool ourselves, and we can't really say we've ever had a case that noise woke us up. But
No. Yeah, I
If
agree.
there is, we can address it, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, mine too.
100%.
Okay.
Okay,
Can we talk about who should wear diapers in the pool, please?
Topic.
Because when Patrick and I were looking at these rules, apparently the lawyer had certain ideas of what should be in our rules. And I know that Mark and I agree on this. Why are we insinuating that it's the adults who need the diapers, but we can't do anything about small children?
No.
It just seems wrong, and I wouldn't want that to go through as a rule if there's something we can do about that.
well, I want you to know the president of the board does not wear diapers and he doesn't go in the pool. So at this point of life, I don't.
I think the problem is we have to address all people, including children and adults, in the same manner. And they're all really required under state requirements to be treated equally, whether they are children or not. And that's why the wording got changed, from what I understand. Is that correct, Patrick?
Yeah, that's exactly the case, sir. You know, Ashley Lupo, the attorney that reviewed all these, basically, she says it in two sections here of her comments that she sent back to me, was that she removed provisions on children as it is inclusive and is likely a violation of the FHA rules. Every person needs to abide by the governing documents regardless of age. Full rules were changed to avoid violations of the FHA. So.
Well, Patrick, it's Carolyn again. Is it possible to add all incontinent persons and children who are not potty trained potty trained yet?
Sure, there's some kind of language.
I mean,
I think it should be, yeah.
are we permitted to add or subtract our own rules as we see fit, or must we use certain guidelines and that's all?
Well, I mean, the rules come from the documents, your governing documents. That's what a lot of these rules are based on. So it's got to stay in the context of the way the rule is presented in the documents. So, I mean, there's some areas where you have a little bit of flexibility. This would be one of those areas. I mean, in terms of pool rules and guidelines and things like that, because you're not dealing just with what's in your documents, you're also dealing with what the state and local governments are allowing to. So with that said, I mean, but I think that in terms of what you're asking in terms of children, I mean, I think there's language in there that you can put in there that,
like maybe children who are still wearing diapers should wear a swim diaper. Could we get away with that? Because there's an awful lot of,
or maybe under the age of 3 or 4 or something, whatever that, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'd have to talk to Ashley, and I'm sure that it could be tweaked.
I have another question related to that then. The idea of supervision. That was a strange one also. In other words, in supervision, shouldn't it be an adult that has to supervise? That word was taken out, I believe.
Phyllis?
Yes.
Under children, it says appropriately supervise. Well, what does that mean?
I don't like that.
Appropriately, and yet
I don't think that's applicable at all. I think that has to be a little more specific.
That's the lawyer's term. So I think that's pretty subjective.
So do I.
Well, one person
Maybe another 9-year-old. I mean, that seems mature. I think there has to be a little more specific on that one, because that could turn into danger. I've seen it.
Are there health department rules concerning children?
Should be, yes.
Yeah, there are.
Yes, there are.
Okay. You know,
She took those.
Can't
She
you
took
just
those
say-
out, right, Patrick?
What's that?
The lawyer took those all references to age and that kind of stuff out of what was there, right? What's the reason for doing that?
Yeah, why?
I think it's got a lot to do with our climate, and
Or what?
I think it's got a lot to do with our social climate.
Yeah, but you have a child that's 2 and you
You know,
say,
I don't know.
what's appropriate?
Well, I'm reading something right here in the rules that say children 14 years or
Correct. Yes.
must be appropriately supervised. So there is an age,
Yes, there is.
14 years.
Or under, right. So why not just say by an adult?
Or, now, I know it doesn't. And then what was
Yeah.
crossed out from that statement was by a reasonable adult.
That could be so open.
Now that is also so open to
That makes no sense at all.
these terms.
Makes no sense.
Mark, isn't
What's appropriate, adult?
a reasonable adult strange?
Maybe an adult dog at that point.
Weird language, right?
Makes no sense.
My only comment would be, under the present legal climate that we have, I would be hesitant to do something that was completely different or too much in addition to what the attorney has advised us to do, unless we gain advice on that issue.
I have a different opinion of that because I guess I've worked with kids all my life and been in education and principal. And you don't want a danger factor either. I know what's the climate and I know what reality can be, and you can do it within the climate, but appropriately. I think that wording's a little weird. Exactly.
But on all these suggestions, any of you would draft something that you think is appropriate and submit them to your board member, and we can consider those and address it to the attorney. But you know, we cannot guarantee, the only thing, well, the main thing we're interested in is safety.
Right.
That we've done all we can to warn people as to the safety factors, whether it be wearing diapers in the pool or glass around the pool or whatever. We've got to show, I think, for us to escape liability, that we have taken all reasonable precautions to warn people. Unfortunately, most people know these things. They know they should put their baby in a diaper. We shouldn't have to do that, and we also know that they don't relieve themselves in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
But anyway, put those suggestion wording and drop them by Patrick, and we can look at them and run them by our attorney, and then maybe the next time we look to rules, which will probably be within a year, if it's necessary, well, we'll try to incorporate that and take care of these problems. So,
Joe, can I?
Yeah.
I've got two things three actually, that I'd like to bring up.
Yeah,
One,
this is Charlie.
Yes, Charlie Ray.
Yeah, Charlie.
First of all, I'd like to see a size limitation placed on pets. I reached out to Zuli Marabano, who's the vice president of KW, who's Patrick's boss's boss's boss, and asked her to do a survey. And she did a survey about a year ago of the condominium associations that KW has under contract. And she said the average weight limit in the majority of the associations is 20 to 25 pounds. She also said that very few, yours being one of those, don't have limits. Also, very few have limits of 30 pounds or more. I feel that in our environment, larger pets pose a risk to some of the people, whether in the narrow hallways or in the elevators, and not to mention the size of the deposits some of these animals may be leaving on the sidewalks. Mm-hmm. So I would really encourage the board to modify the rule, and I believe it's on page 20, I'm not sure. It is on page 20, under animal regulations, paragraph A, and insert a reasonable, whatever the board decides reasonable is, limit on the size of animals. Secondly, also on limits, the size of vehicles that we allow to park in the garage. And there's one giant pickup truck that is parked in a tandem space in building 2, where the people on either side can't open their doors. Now, fortunately, they're tandem spots and they can adjust their parking positions. But if they were single spots like I'm parking in and like you're parking in, Joe, I couldn't get out of my car with one of those monsters parked next to me. So I think that we have to have some level of reasonableness in this. And I don't think a Ford F-250 that's jacked up and occupies the entire width of the parking space is reasonable in our environment. And as far as putting this off, I would like to see the board table these. I would like to see your suggestion, Joe, taken up and give people maybe till the end of the month to submit their suggestions and have the board reconfigure the rules and reconvene in a month or so.
Okay. Anything else on dog size? Of course, we have to grandfather in.
Nothing more on dog size.
Well,
Okay.
I think 25 pounds is reasonable. And according to Zuli, 25 pounds is pretty much what other associations have implemented.
Yeah, but you understand we'd have to grandfather those owners that already
Definitely,
have
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Those owners that are here with larger animals will have to be grandfathered in.
Right.
I think though that the fact that we don't have a weight limit is a selling feature of this community. I don't know.
Well, it is, but do we want to live in a community that is home to large animals?
I mean,
Handicapped older folks, wheelchairs.
I know of one case that happened in building 3 where an owner was literally attacked by a large dog, and the dog should not have been here. It belonged to a renter. But still,
granted, but that any dog can attack, and that is more of a feature of the, you know, the way the dog was raised and so forth, or is being, you know, trained and so forth, than it is the size.
The saying that there are no bad dogs, there's only bad owners, and that's true. But if we did not have bad owners, we wouldn't have the kind of problems we've already spent 15 minutes discussing.
Any other comments on dogs?
Oh, not about dogs. How about the height of children in a hot tub? Why is it 40 inches tall and not by age? I don't understand that. Am I on?
Yeah, why is it, would you repeat that, Carol?
Children under 40 inches tall may not use the hot tub.
I would assume that's a safety feature because of, I don't know.
I'm saying it's children under a certain age because their little bodies cannot take that heat. That has nothing to do with how tall or short they are. And then how do we monitor that? We put a big ruler out and see if they meet the height requirement? No, I think it's a safety problem for little children. And it shouldn't be worded that way.
Well, Carol, my opinion is that the main responsibility for that kid are the parents.
I know, Joe. I agree.
Unfortunately, you can't fix stupid.
No.
I mean, some of the parents, you wonder what should they be parents?
And I see it a lot. Maybe some of the other folks that live around the pool see our visitors who come, and they don't care what the rules are. They're going to do what they want. And I hear the kids going, "Oh, yay, yay, let's go in the hot tub." And they're these little tiny kids. So, yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but I hope that it's an age and not a height requirement.
Well, those are people, regardless what the rules say, they want to do it anyway, unless we can
anyway,
figure out some way to stop it. And if it's happening during the day, then you contact the office or security. If you can get a picture of them or identify who they might be so that Patrick can take it up. But, you know, we're always going to have problems. problems. And sometimes, I mean, I have problems. I have the garbage people come at 6:30 to 7 sometimes right out of my window and raise that big steel door and wake me up. But that only happens 3 or 4 times a year, so I decided to just quit worrying about it.
Joe,
But
Joe,
but if it happens every day or every week, then I won't be out raising Cain. But you know, I agree with you that there's some things you just can't do anything about with
I
people.
think, Joe, just to
Is there an
I think
hour?
that you can, if it's appropriate, have the fine committee gets involved at that point. If somebody's abusing something, then that's where the fine committee gets involved. And that connects.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah,
Joe,
yeah.
I know we're
Yes.
talking about us finalizing the rules, so I want to make sure if there are issues that can be changed, that we finalize that and do it before it's written in stone.
Yeah, well, we can't change them today, I'm told, without
No.
incorporating the changes, send them out. But as I say, anybody, whoever you are, draft something and talk to Patrick or your board member, and let's see if we can get it going. First, you got to address the problem. Before you solve it, what is the problem? How serious is it? And what can we do about it? Now Charlie brought up a question about the big dogs. So I can see his point. Then someone else said, how would that affect the property values? If someone with a big dog couldn't pay me $500,000 for my little unit over here, and that's something you got to weigh. You got to weigh between the good and the bad.
So I have a question. Can we have the opportunity? I actually called the office, a few days ago and asked if there was a way that, after reviewing these, can we make suggestions before having this meeting? And it was my understanding that this was going to be kind of more of a back and forth, have a discussion about certain things, and not that this was what the changes would be as of today.
Right. That's why I opened it. I'm hoping everyone, all of us are equal owners. We're not a resort. We're not a hotel like some of the tenants or some of the visitors think we're a hotel. And we're all in this thing together. And we want to keep a good quality of life, and we want to keep our property values up. And so those are things we need to consider. And every person that is an owner has a vote and should make suggestions. They should be part of the solution.
Joe,
Yes.
hi, I'm sorry,
Yes, Suzanne.
but Mark was cut off twice. Can you say something, please?
Okay. Mark, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Why can't you hear him? You can hear me, but you can't hear him?
Hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, can now.
Okay,
Right.
sorry. No, I see a lot of confusion about, and I was confused too, why the references to adults were taken out of a lot of these rules. And evidently looking into it because of the Fair Housing Act and the concern about discriminating against children and families, a lot of associations and association lawyers are trying to get away from referring to the requirement for adults. We're trying to get away from overly restrictive age restrictions. So that's what's going on here, I think, is that the association attorney is recommending wording that gets away from all that. I think it's trying to get away from all that to the extreme, because when you're talking about young children, I still think it's appropriate to require adult supervision. But that's what's going on in the wording for those wondering why they're getting away from requiring adult supervision and so forth. It's because they're trying to not be overly restrictive against children and families. But I think you can do both. I think with careful wording, like with the diaper issue, if you mention adults and children both together, then there's no problem. There's no supposed discrimination against children or families. So I think just a little bit more careful wording and not being too overly concerned about the Fair Housing Act. I mean, it's been around since the 1980s. So, but just seems like lately people are trying to be overly restrictive in these rules. But I think with careful wording, we can address all these concerns easily. It just needs to go back a time or two.
Okay, Mark, would you draft something that you think would work and so we could consider it? I mean, I agree with you. I mean, we got, you make so many rules and you have a rule here that contradicts another rule. And you have all these federal regulations that don't apply. We've recently had a problem with handicap parking, and hopefully we got that resolved.
Yeah, it's just like with the hot tub. The wording, I guess, from the attorney was trying to focus on the size of the kid rather than his age. You know, but still, when you're talking about young kids, it's still appropriate to talk about adult supervision, not when you're talking about 17 and 18-year-old kids. But when you're talking about young kids, it's not inappropriate to refer to adult supervision. And like with the hot tub, the Florida rules still require that kids 12 years old and less in a hot tub have to be supervised by an adult. So they still reference adults in their health regulations. So
okay,
it's just a little bit more careful wording, but we don't want to water down our rules too much where we don't even refer to adults or refer to children by a certain age. So I think there's a middle ground there that can be reached between what the attorney would like in a perfect world.
I lost you.
We lost you.
We lost you. We can't hear.
Sorry. I think there's a middle ground there between the perfect world that the association attorney wants in their wording and what we need as far as practicality. I think there's a middle ground there, personally.
Yeah. Okay.
So I also wanted to discuss the exterior appearance rules and try and get clarification, because I've heard, although I don't recall reading it here and perhaps I missed it, that there is some regulation about not being able to like hang pictures or that type of thing on the lanai, but I don't see that referenced in the exterior appearance. And then it mentions that no exterior lighting. So I have the, patio like string lights that are not permanently attached, but are on my lanai. And it says here, no lighting can be, well, it's saying installed. It's not really installed per se because it's not permanent, but I'd like some clarification on that. I feel like the lanai is an extension of our living space, and being in Florida, that we, like to use our lanais in the evenings when you would like some type of ambiance and light that is not like a porch light. So I'm just, would like to have some further clarification and see if we can't come up with something that makes sense.
Patrick, can you address that? I know there's a rule someplace against attaching anything to the walls on the lanai, and I did not know the reason for that is until I asked. And if you would address that, Patrick. Unmute yourself.
There you go. Is he gone?
Patrick had enough. He was going.
Patrick left.
Remember, Patrick's in the office and people are in there and probably phones are ringing, and so he has to do that. So, Patrick,
You guys caught the first part of it, right?
No.
So no, what I was saying was so the exterior walls is concrete. So in our documents, and this is going to be in any condo association, residents are not allowed to install or make holes or hang anything that's going to go inside, like into the wall. And so if you're going to drill holes and hang pictures or hang lighting or those types of things, that those penetrations that a resident will make, for an example, right? Say they have a few pictures out there and maybe this happens to be in an area that does have some exposure to some of the weather elements. Maybe it does get wet occasionally, maybe not every time it rains, but maybe sometimes. So what happens is, it's, the rule is in place to keep the integrity of the building in place. So in other words, so people aren't drilling holes, they become spalls, and then next thing you know, we have a major stucco repair, or we have some water penetration coming in from the unit that goes back to those holes in the wall. So that part, I'm 100% all in on that rule. But in terms of lighting, I can't really answer that, Annette. That lighting regulation was the existing one, and I just kept it in the thing. So that's what this meeting's for. I mean, we could discuss this, and if that's something that, you know, the board or people want to have changed or altered in some sense, this would be the time to do that. So,
Are you saying the floor lamp out on your lanai is prohibited?
No.
What kind of light are you talking about?
We're talking about like hanging like string lights, like you know, something similar to holiday lights. Not exactly those, but those too. Some people use those. Some people, I think Annette's got a different style, and that's more, I think, probably geared for what she's talking about, like an evening ambience and that type of thing. So it's just that type of lighting is what she's.
But it's not permanently installed.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's just, so, I mean, there's no holes in anything. And that's my question, you know, and I see other units that also have a similar type of lighting, or lighting that is maybe like against the wall with almost like panels, and then there are lights on the panels and things of that nature, which are not making any type of permanent structure or changing or making holes in the walls, etc. And I'm thinking that, you know, it looks nice. It should. I don't see a reason why something like that shouldn't be allowed.
Is it that if they're not
on
the banisters? Is that what it is?
That actually just crossed my mind. I mean, if I mean, I'm just saying hypothetically. I mean, you know, if you have your lanai and you put the lighting like around the perimeter on the inside or something, for an example, but don't wrap your railings and all that, that would probably look much better.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, it's only on the interior. It's not on the outside. It's not wrapped around any kind of poles or railings.
So maybe that's something the architectural review committee should address as to what's appropriate, what's not. Of course, we all know the reason that we have some regulations of uniformity, because that's where you don't hang towels out on your railing, and you don't have different windows, you don't have loud, you know, there's got to be some semblance of propriety. So maybe this is something that we ought to have a committee of some type that would address situations like that. We don't, in other words, your condo, in my opinion, should not stand out in a gaudy way. And from what Annette indicates there, hers is very subdued. But it's nice. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But I have seen some string lights last year that were not appropriate, and I think they were addressed. Do you get the Christmas? How much you can decorate on Christmas or other holidays? So maybe we need some to address that if that's an issue.
Yeah, Joe, let me just add this. I mean, just so everyone knows, I mean, this is in the master doc. So this is in the declaration, section 8.11. It says exterior lighting. And this is in terms of unit use now. So this is referring to the to your lanai or balcony or something like that. It says all exterior lighting shall be subject to prior approval by the master association. So it doesn't say that we can't have it. The association at some point might have put that in there, you know, previous boards or whoever worked on that originally might have put that in there to try to maybe keep from, you know, because in the rules and regulations, it does say management approval, right? So I think maybe they might have put that in the rules and regulations so people aren't putting like all these different crazy colored lights and all this kind of, you know what I mean? Then it really looks crazy, you know what I mean? So, I mean, if we keep a uniformity, it's probably something that I bet a lot of people could agree on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree as well, and that it's sort of like the same that the comment about the umbrellas. I don't have an umbrella, but I know, you know, certain lanais that are have areas that are uncovered might, you know, have umbrellas, and it says if they're of reasonable size, color, and are approved in writing. So I'm wondering, have these umbrellas actually all gone through like an approval process, or is that something that, I mean, what's reasonable size and color, particularly color? Like I can see reasonable size, but that just seems so arbitrary.
I agree.
Patrick, do we have a rules committee that either works on what changes should be made over a period of time, or addresses these questions like on the umbrella, or is that all directed to your office?
Well, this time around it's directed to the office, but in previous versions and revisions of the rules and regulations, Ron Balo worked on these. And I don't know, I know he worked with Joe one year, that was I think the last revision, but I don't know what he's done in the past prior to that.
It was always a committee of the residents, even before Ron. Right, before Ron, it was Lynn and somebody else, right? Lynn and another Mark, different Mark. Yeah, it's always been that way from the time we moved here.
Because some of these things are gonna take some effort to look into, the pets, for instance. If we're gonna have a weight limit, how are we going to enforce that? Doesn't have any good to have a rule if you're not gonna have a methodology in order to enforce that rule. I'm not sure legally what we can enforce about size of vehicles. It may be logical that a large vehicle can't be in that space, but if it's within the space that's allocated, we may have a problem with those. I know there is a problem if you can't open the doors on the sides of the vehicle. Maybe that in particular needs to be addressed at some point. But this seems to be an ongoing thing. And from what I understand, as the rules were sent out, you need 14 days of notice in order to approve those rules. So if we change them, we're back to changing and then sending them out and going through another 14-day period before we can ask for the approval of those rules again. And I think this is more than a 14-day thing, and we seem to have a number of issues that probably should be addressed by at least two people to work on this and come up with some solutions, and to work with Patrick to come up with what might work for the organization.
Yeah, with regard to the vehicles, probably instead of just saying a certain size, just say no one shall have a vehicle that impedes the ability of the adjacent vehicle access to the adjacent vehicle.
I agree, Joe.
I mean, can't give the model or the size or anything. But I know that's a problem because I live in building 2 as Charlie does. And last year, I'm surprised that we didn't get complaints from some people, because I don't see how they got in their vehicle either. There's a huge truck parked right behind the office, almost adjacent to the office. I think it's second one from the end down there. So anyway, no, I think that's a good idea. And if the board agrees, I'll consult with you individually. And then if you agree, after we've talked, I'll appoint somebody that will agree to serve on the rules committee. It's a very challenging situation. I mean, I served with Ron, and Ron was so particular about everything that I got a headache. I say, Ron, you go ahead and do it. But you couldn't argue with him. Poor guy.
I think Ruth used to get a headache too.
We're getting there.
But no, I mean, there are people that are good at it. I don't have the patience to do it, but if the board agrees, I will consult with any of you, come up with suggestions. In the meantime, any of you that are on here that would agree to serve on the Rules Committee, let Patrick or one of the board members know about it. I think that's a great idea to have a Rules Committee.
Do we have an architectural committee yet, Patrick? No, see, we don't have that either.
Really not good.
Gardening committee?
Well, so let's go the same thing on architectural committee. I mean, people with good taste, don't get somebody like Joe Whittle who's colorblind.
Gee, Joe, so am I.
Are you? No, we just don't want, well, if you let one person have in a community, for example, have their car jacked up on blocks, then everybody's going to do it. Or if they leave, well, one place we had to leave our garage doors down. Others had to leave lights on. But we don't want one place to stick out like a sore thumb. We don't have a race of who has the best looking lanai. Just like when I was inducted into the Navy, the first thing they did was shave everybody's head. And so nobody would stand out. And you had these guys come in these big pompadours and they were crying. When the barber, he'd say, "How you want to cut?" They'd tell them he'd just take it, start shaving their head off. We all looked alike. And we were uniform. So anyway, let's come up with those two committees, and anybody's willing to serve, has artistic ability as well as style, let us know. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, I really enjoyed today because one thing about our Zoom meetings, everybody gets a chance to talk without interruption. There's nobody arguing back and forth. I mean, everybody have their say and then somebody else have their say. And I think it's been a great meeting. And I wish everybody would participate on the Zoom meetings. With that being said, is anyone ready to make a motion to adopt the rules and regulations?
To adopt them?
I
Is
thought
that
we
what-
were going to wait.
Right.
No, we're going to approve these and then redo them. Now, is that right, Patrick? We need to get these out.
No,
Because they are.
I agree. I think that what we've talked about today, I think it's premature to approve these just right now. I think we need to tweak some of that language and.
Well, are you saying that we should go back to the old rules that we've had?
Well, they're going to remain in place until this version we get through. I mean, we're talking only, talking another month. If we can.
Or can you do it? Okay.
I mean, if we can wrap this up in 2 weeks and come to some agreement on language, and then we'll send it back out and schedule another meeting.
Okay, do I, your motion that we
Table
could
the,
Table it?
continue,
Yeah.
table it, okay, that's fine,
second the motion to table.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes are unanimous. So we will table it. Anything else before we adjourn?
Now, just that I'd like to just add on to your comment about anybody that was involved in this conversation. I know some people have left the meeting already, but if anybody's interested in helping us out with this, please do so, because we're going to need the help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also remember that we're interested
I'll help,
in,
Patrick.
we're also interested to keep our property values up and having a good quality of life. And sometimes they conflict, just like the dog issue, because one guy's, I think Charlie told me, is one real estate agent's advertised that there's no weight limit on dogs at the resident of Coconut Point. Well, apparently that real estate agent considers that a selling point. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, anyway, we need to consider both, by the way, that real estate agent was indicating he was official real estate agent for us, and, we put a stop to that. We had our attorney to write him a letter and tell him to cease and desist, which he had to do. He's one of the claims he sold so many units and all that. So anyway, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion adjourned, second. All in favor, say aye, and the ayes have it.
Right.
Thanks. Good meeting. And
Aye.
thanks for all your participation.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Patrick.
Bye, Patrick.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.